In the stillness of the old factory, an elderly man lost himself in memories of his past. 35 years of hard work had slipped by. Strangely, it all seemed to end without a sound. Painless needles, gears as small as rice grains, and materials thinner than a 1,000 yen bill. These were the marvels of Japan's finest craftsmanship. The simple artisans who keep these skills alive are known as craftsmen. One day, an agent entered the workshop, revealing that the man, Takumi Fujimura, was over 70 years old. Takumi, upset by the agent's proposal, rejected it due to tight budgets and timelines. The agent mocked Takumi's skills, calling them outdated, insisting that he follow orders. Angered, Takumi grabbed the agent by the collar, reminding him of the pride every artisan carries. He warned the agent to leave or face harsher consequences. The agent sneered, thinking Takumi was just a traditional worker, claiming that Takumi's factory would soon vanish. After the confrontation, Takumi's business struggled. Faced with hardship, he wondered what to do, as crafting was his only skill. Without a successor to carry on, Takumi decided to close the factory. As he removed the shop sign, memories flooded back of his relentless dedication, of a secret love in his youth, and of finally becoming his own boss. Time had flown, and at 70, he felt a mix of gratitude and surprise. But then regret washed over him. He wished he had one last chance to leave a legacy. Lost in thought, a sharp pain struck his chest. The years of neglecting his health for work had caught up with him. As he collapsed, Takumi silently wished for one more opportunity to craft. Suddenly, he awoke in another world, reincarnated into the body of a young teenager. A system appeared before him, Meikugen, Eye of the Craftmaster, confused and disoriented, especially with clothes that were too large for his new body. Takumi began to explore this unfamiliar land. There, he met a young girl named Frau von Freya, practicing swordsmanship with a tree trunk. But during her training, her prosthetic arm came loose. Takumi approached, curious why a young girl was training in such a place. He introduced himself as a dodgy old man, and confessed that he felt lost. Frau, surprised, was puzzled by Takumi's reference to himself as old. Frau decided to visit Takumi's workshop. As he adjusted the clothes to fit his new body, Takumi still couldn't shake the feeling that he was dreaming. The world around him was eerily similar to the modern anime he had watched. Takumi took out his electric drill and began to fix Frau's prosthetic arm. When he finished, Frau tried it on, and it fit perfectly. She was amazed by the speed and skill Takumi displayed, comparing him to the legendary dwarves. Frau explained that these mythical dwarves were renowned for their extraordinary blacksmithing, creating legendary weapons for heroes, even sealing the Demon King. But now, the Demon King's army has risen again, stronger than ever, seemingly impervious to even the mightiest of weapons. Frau dreams of becoming a hero, wielding these legendary weapons, but in reality, she's just a fragile healer, recently cast out of her group and now forced to journey alone. As Takumi listens to Frau's whispered hopes, he gradually accepts that he's truly in a fantasy world. Still, doubts linger. In an attempt to snap out of it, he slaps himself across the face, only to feel real pain and swelling. Noticing his discomfort, Frau begins to heal his face, bringing relief and earning Takumi's gratitude. She then tells him about her family's treasured staff, which holds a rare B-rank magical stone, lantern crystal, a precious resource in their land. The sting from his slap still fresh, Takumi reaches for a cigarette to calm himself. He takes a deep breath and tries to think clearly. Gradually, it sinks in. He's truly been reincarnated into another world. A strange new adventure for a man in his 70s. He starts wondering how he might survive in this world of magic. With a plan beginning to form in his mind, Takumi asks to borrow Frau's precious staff. At first she refuses, fiercely protective of her family heirloom. But when she sees the disappointment in Takumi's eyes, she reluctantly hands him the staff, along with a stern warning: stay away from the northern mountains, especially at night where the deadly creature Eyeless lurks. Unfazed, Takumi returns to his workshop and begins researching a book to better understand this new world. In Errol's, he learns of magical minerals and stones that serve as natural batteries, powering everything from daily tools to devastating combat magic through the Kankitsuet transmission of mana. Takumi decides to experiment with a magic stone in the staff. While working, his Kisekigen, analyzing IT ability, activates, giving him an unprecedented view of the magic stone's core with perfect clarity. Despite his careful approach, an unexpected explosion occurs, revealing a highly pure crystal core inside. Takumi realizes that the stone's outer layers had been a limiter, controlling the immense power of the core. For the first time in years, Takumi feels truly challenged. He recalls his experience with metalwork, from preparing materials, cutting, shaping, and drilling to threading. Each step demands the craftsman's keen intuition, detecting even the smallest changes and adjusting in real time, skills that only the greatest artisans possess, far surpassing machine capabilities. After much trial and error, though the result looks simple, completing it fills him with a deep sense of accomplishment, triggering a notification from the system, announcing new skills acquired. Yet Takumi ignores the system's alerts, stepping outside for a smoke to reflect on Frau's words and her impossible dream of becoming a hero with only one arm. This contemplation fuels Takumi's resolve to continue creating. To his surprise, one of the magic stones begins to glow. When Frau returns, she asks for her staff back. Instead, Takumi hands her a modern firearm, something she has never seen before. He explains that her staff has been transformed into this new weapon. Leaving Frau stunned, she insists on restoring the staff to its original form, but Takumi explains that the transformation is irreversible. Takumi shared how he had harvested many magic stones, revealing his ability to see their light and observe their detailed properties. Frau was amazed, but before they could continue their conversation, an earthquake suddenly shook the ground. The two rushed outside to investigate, only to find an eyeless monster descending onto their workshop. Frau urged Takumi to flee, but he stood his ground, determined to protect his work. Takumi handed her the gun and explained how to use it just as the monster charged at them. Though terrified, Frau trusted Takumi's 54 years of experience in manufacturing. As the monster lunged toward them, she pulled the trigger, instantly destroying the threat. Takumi was elated by the success of his new creation, excited at the prospect of helping Frau become the strongest hero in the world, and together defeating the Demon King. Though still uncertain, Frau agreed, pledging to stand by his side until the very end. In the past, Frau and her team had faced the Manticore, hoping to earn the title of A-class hero. The team leader ordered they not let the monster escape and prepared Frau for a healing role, but Frau chose to heal a wounded child instead of focusing on the battle, angering the team leader, who saw it as a waste of magic on an unworthy villager. Despite the leader's objections, Frau insisted on saving the child, knowing that without her help, he would die. While they argued, the Manticore launched a fireball, striking Frau directly. After the battle, when Takumi visited the bedridden Frau, the team leader coldly told her that she was no longer welcome, blaming her for letting the monster escape. To atone for her mistake, they took all her savings, demoted her from B rank to F rank. Not only was she abandoned and her career destroyed, but she also lost her right arm. Frau awoke from this painful memory, returning to the present morning. Takumi had built a loudspeaker, a device Frau had never seen before. He explained it would amplify their voices, encouraging her to try it out. When Frau spoke, the sound was deafening, like the roar of thunder. Satisfied with his invention, Takumi pondered the endless possibilities of the magic stones. Frau wondered why Takumi believed she was destined to defeat the Demon King, when he could have achieved more on his own or found a more suitable hero. Takumi explained that he was too old to be a hero and found the idea of performing in such a role dull. He believed a female hero, especially a one-armed healer, would captivate the people's interest. He emphasized that the joy of a craftsman comes from seeing others appreciate their work. Takumi then suggested they go into town together. Frau hesitated at first, but eventually agreed, leading Takumi to suspect she might have something else in mind for their visit. Upon arriving in the royal capital, Roroso Cadornia, Takumi was captivated by the city's rich diversity of races. When he tried to greet a demi-human, he drew unwanted attention, causing Frau to hide her scarred face and conceal her identity. Takumi noticed a nearby dungeon and asked about it. Frau explained that it was the Cavern Path Embio, a newly discovered dungeon, an ancient and mysterious underground labyrinth said to have existed since the world's creation. Its levels and challenges are ever-changing, but they always promise risks, monsters, and treasures, drawing many explorers and leading to the growth of surrounding towns and cities. Frau mentioned the fast tournament was approaching, giving the first person to discover the dungeon a chance to claim its treasure. This sparked Takumi's interest, hoping to find rare magic stones inside. However, Frau doubted this, knowing the top heroes from across the world would also compete, while they were just a team of two. Their appearance soon caught the attention of those around them. The crowd recognized Frau as a former member of Shiden, calling her Frau the Betrayer, referring to rumors that she had abandoned her comrades in battle. Takumi laughed it off, advising Frau to ignore the crowd. But their attention quickly shifted to Takumi, mocking him as a foolish child who resembled an ogre. Confused, Takumi asked Frau about goblins, and she showed him a picture, making him feel uncomfortable. Suddenly, members of Shiden appeared behind Frau, greeting her with sarcastic remarks. The crowd cheered for Shiden, acknowledging their great contributions to the city. The leader of the group, Valk Donner, a dual swordsman from the A-rank team, mocked Frau for working with a child. He humiliated her further, claiming she'd never amount to anything significant, especially since he'd spread false rumors about her betraying her teammates. Valk Donner turned to leave, but Takumi stopped him, stating that people shouldn't be judged based on appearances alone, and continued calling him a little brat. The crowd found it odd that someone with Takumi's youthful appearance would call another a brat, picturing him as a wild, unruly boy. Valk Donner responded sarcastically, asking if Takumi intended to participate in the tournament. When Takumi confirmed that they would join the tournament and continued exchanging playful banter with Valk, the crowd watched with growing interest. Frau was stunned to realize that Takumi was genuinely serious about competing in the audition. At the Gladiator Arena, the crowd roared with excitement as the FST selection competition kicked off, with many powerful warriors entering the fray. A few hours earlier, before leaving town, Takumi had asked Frau the fastest way to defeat the Demon King. Frau explained that to defeat the Demon King, one must become an SS rank adventurer, a prestigious title given to only 7 people in the world, called Soloan. These individuals are humanity's last hope, free to operate in Azuma, the demon's front line, and they are the closest anyone can be to being hailed as a true hero. Back in the present, the host announced the fast selection tournament, inviting the contestants into the arena. Frau, holding a gun with anxiety, stepped forward, drawing murmurs from the crowd. While lost in thought, she accidentally bumped into a massive warrior. This act angered the warrior's companions, causing them to challenge Frau. Panicked, Frau apologized and sought refuge behind Takumi. Sensing the rising tension, the giant warrior calmed his allies, hoping to avoid a confrontation. The giant warrior asked why a child like Takumi would be participating in such a dangerous event, and inquired about his parents. Takumi, furious, responded with a strong declaration that they intended to defeat the Demon King. The crowd quickly dismissed him as an absurd, foolish child. However, when Takumi and the giant warrior locked eyes, there was a moment of understanding. After a tense silence, the giant warrior saw the determination in Takumi's eyes, realizing that there was more to this boy than his appearance. He apologized for treating Takumi like a child, showing respect for his spirit. The giant warrior introduced himself as Gandalf, leader of the B-Class Party Gardener team, and introduced his teammates, Gin and Kin, both swordsmen. With a nod, they bid farewell, expressing hopes for a fair match in the future. Takumi and Frau both found Gandalf to be a kind and honorable person. On the watchtower, a patrolling guard spotted a large army of goblins advancing towards the city. He immediately alerted the residents, warning of an impending monster attack. At first, the royal knights and adventurers stayed calm, believing that the monsters would not be foolish enough to attack at this time. However, the guard reported that over 1,000 monsters, including goblins and ogres, were expected to arrive within half an hour. Realizing the gravity of the situation, the explorers sprang into action. Valk Donner suggested changing the plan, proposing that the competition be cancelled, and the winner chosen based on the number of monsters killed. The crowd cheered, agreeing with the idea, and the host reluctantly turned the selection tournament into a new A-rank mission called the Mass Repulsion Battle. As the adventurers rushed to defend the city gate opened, allowing them access to the battlefield. Valk and his team quickly plunged into the fray, taking down monsters with efficiency and skill. Meanwhile, some explorers met tragic ends, creating a chaotic and bloody battlefield. Takumi urged Frau to join the fight. Despite her fear and reluctance to participate in the tournament, Frau hesitated until she saw an injured adventurer. Without hesitation, she rushed to his side, healing him with her magic, saving his life. The adventurer, grateful for her help, thanked Frau, but his gratitude was cut short by an attacking goblin. Gandalf swiftly shielded Frau, and his teammates destroyed the goblin threat. Gandalf urged Frau to remain vigilant, reminding her of the seriousness of the situation. He said, Frau, we can't abandon those in need. Frau explained that this mindset was passed down from her mother, Maris von Freya, who had once been known as Soleune, the Fire Princess, an excellent healer and fire controller from a noble family in the north. Gandalf learned that Maris had died 15 years ago during the Great War, and was surprised to find that a survivor from her family still lived. He reassured Frau that she could focus on healing, and he and his team would protect her. Gandalf received praise from Takumi, who suggested they celebrate with a glass of wine after the battle. However, just then, Valk Donner appeared, mocking Frau for pushing on despite the rumors about her. When Gandalf stepped in to defend her, Valk suddenly stabbed him in the back, killing him instantly, declaring that Gandalf should not interfere. Kin and Gin, angered by the loss of their leader, tried to avenge him, but they decided they were quickly defeated by Valk's team, leaving Frau terrified and helpless. Valk then turned to Takumi. Valk challenged Takumi's understanding of his position and attacked. Takumi successfully blocked the attack with his pipe wrench, feeling relieved that he didn't have to show mercy in this new world. He prepared to counterattack Valk. Valk found Takumi interesting, initially scoffing at the idea of being defeated by a child like him. However, after a moment's thought, Valk realized that Takumi had blocked one of his attacks, making him reconsider whether Takumi was truly just a normal child. The day before, Takumi had tested his new invention, a pipe wrench, in battle against a giant mantis. He easily blocked all of the mantis's attacks. After a while of experimenting with blocking attacks, Takumi decided to attack the mantis with his pipe wrench, which he named Kongu Paren. He delivered a powerful blow, killing the monster instantly. Frau was highly impressed with Takumi's ability to defeat monsters with a single fatal blow. Takumi explained that the pipe wrench, crafted from a combination of materials designed to enhance his strength and physical abilities, these enhancements significantly boosted his overall power. He added that the long training process had sharpened his eyes, allowing him to perceive things in slow motion when concentrating. This skill he called Shinsokugen. In the present, Takumi ordered Frau to regain her composure quickly and focus on healing Gandalf and his comrades. Meanwhile, Valk, enjoying the 4v1 situation, prepared to deliver the finishing blow to Takumi. Suddenly, an explorer swooped down from the sky, crushed one of Valk's teammates, creating a momentary distraction. The adventurer reported that the Goblin Lord, an extremely dangerous enemy, ranked A Special, had entered the battlefield. The Goblin Lord possessed the ability to kill masses with just one swing of his sword, and most adventurers didn't stand a chance against him. The group on the battlefield became tense, as Viek, attracted by the appearance of the Goblin Lord, decided to redirect his attention to this new threat, temporarily sparing Takumi's life, considering him lucky. Meanwhile, Frau used her healing abilities to save many adventurers who were on the brink of death from the Goblin Lord's attacks. Takumi warned her not to exhaust herself and run out of mana, but Frau was determined to continue saving people. He assured her that he would protect her, encouraging her to save as many lives as possible. Valk looked down on Frau's efforts, sarcastically thanking her for providing him with an extra meat shield, as he and his comrades fought the Goblin Lord. The battle ended in silence. When the Goblin Lord was defeated, strengthening Valk's position in the Fiest, Takumi, noticing that Frau was exhausted, became worried. Valk approached Frau, sarcastically thanking her and speaking about the inevitable sacrifices, a reference to his fallen comrade, Eltico, a name he could barely even remember. As Valk thought about his team's loss, he considered recruiting Frau, but his words were interrupted when Frau, ignoring his ridicule, focused solely on treating the dying Eltico. Valk was disgusted by her actions, stopped mid-offer, and walked away. Miraculously, Frau saved Eltico's life, but soon afterward, she collapsed from exhaustion. In the city, the citizens celebrated Valk and his team's victory over the Goblin Lord and the protection of the town. The host prepared to announce the recipient of the prestigious position, with Valk eagerly awaiting his name, imagining the prospect of being promoted to S rank or even reaching the title of Soluan. However, unexpectedly, the host announced Frau von Freya as the recipient of the title, shocking the crowd and infuriating Valk. In a fit of rage, Valk revealed his true colors, berating the host for choosing someone he deemed a worthless healer. This outburst caused the crowd to begin to realize Valk's true nature. However, many in the crowd spoke out in support of Frau, recognizing her life-saving efforts. Takumi, pleased with the result, congratulated Frau affectionately, calling her Miss Feist. Unable to accept the outcome, Valk demanded to meet the king, wanting to hear the verdict directly from the ruler. Gandalf advised him to accept the results respectfully. Suddenly, all the surrounding knights raised their spears toward Valk. Gandalf then removed his helmet, revealing his true identity. Shocking Frau, Takumi, and the crowd, he was the king of Rarasso. Despite this shocking revelation, Gandalf remained friendly, reminding Takumi of their promise to drink together. Realizing his serious mistake in accidentally attacking the king, Valk stood stunned, not knowing what to do. Gandalf officially condemned Valk as unworthy of the title of Faest and vowed to spread news of his misdeeds everywhere. Then he knelt on one knee before Frau, recognized her righteous heart, and officially awarded her the title of Faest. Frau, filled with doubts about her worthiness, became caught up in memories of the past. Takumi stepped up, offering words of encouragement, admitting the difficulties she had gone through. He assured Frau that she deserved this glory and her moment of victory. Meanwhile, the adventurers celebrated their victory in a tavern, although Kin, Gandalf's teammate, was dissatisfied with the lack of cleanliness in the shop. Gandalf didn't like holding parties at the castle because he found them too formal. Kin tried to convince her teammate, Gin, to solve the problem, but she was too busy enjoying beer to care. Frau received much attention and admiration from adventurers due to her healing abilities. Meanwhile, discussions among the adventurers swirled about the demon's terrifying power. The devil's terrifying power includes a body as hard as steel, limitless magical energy, the ability to understand human language, the power of flight, and a well-organized army led by the Demon King himself. Even a subordinate commander poses a significant challenge for 5 SS rank adventurers. In the midst of this, an adventurer who refused to accept Frau as a Faest grabbed her by the head, scolding her for being just a healer who couldn't defeat any enemies, considering her a useless woman. However, a beautiful elf intervened, stopping the adventurer by grabbing his hand. When the adventurer provoked the goblin, she simply used her head to ram him hard, knocking him unconscious with ease. The goblin declared that she would not tolerate any insult to Frau, which surprised Frau because she hadn't expected the goblin to know her name. Wearing a familiar mask, the goblin introduced herself as Eltiko and expressed her desire to join Frau and Takumi's group. When Frau sought Takumi's opinion, she found him focused on enjoying Japanese sake, and Takumi finally agreed. While watching Takumi enjoy sake, Frau remembered the first time she met him and how her life had changed since then. She wanted to express her gratitude, but had difficulty because Takumi was surrounded by a group of beautiful women. Frustrated, Frau decided to drink sake and ended up drinking too much, falling asleep. Worried that she might be cold, Takumi noticed that Eltiko did not hesitate to cover Frau with a blanket. Thinking it wasn't enough, the goblin began removing his shirt to offer more warmth. But Takumi and the crowd stopped him. As dawn broke the next morning, the knights assembled at the dungeon entrance. King Gandalf bid farewell to Takumi's group, wishing them luck. Takumi promised Gandalf that upon their return, they'd share tales and drink together. Then they entered the dungeon. Eltiko, born with the bad omen of black hair, a rare trait among goblins, has little mana, which led her to be shunned and bullied by others. An orphan who knew nothing of her origins, she grew up feeling lost. In her darkest times, especially after the battle with the Goblin Lord, memories of abandonment and self-doubt consumed her. Even when her life was at risk, she resigned herself to believing it was fate. But on that fateful day, for the first time, she encountered an act of genuine kindness from another person, and that was the moment she decided this person was worth protecting. Outside the dungeon, the knights were concerned. For 5 days had passed since Takumi's group entered. Suddenly, the dungeon gate erupted in a burst of energy, signaling their return. A knight rushed to inform the king, and people eagerly welcomed them back. Frau shared the valuable information they gathered from the dungeon, including the discovery of an SS rank magic stone, the transition crystal. Takumi explained it could only be used in places he had already visited. The king was also astounded when Takumi revealed another legendary magic stone, the spatial storehouse, which allowed him to access his inventory through a dimensional portal. Takumi then presented a bag filled with magic stones of varying levels, from legendary SS to bronze level D rank. The king, impressed by the discovery of 2 legendary grade stones, was relieved that other nations remained unaware of these finds. But suddenly a black object resembling a meteorite appeared, plummeting from the sky, signaling imminent danger. Takumi urgently warned the surrounding adventurers to take cover, but one was too slow, struck by the impact, and half of his body was obliterated. The remaining adventurers, horrified by their friend's death, panicked and begged Frau to heal him. Frau apologized, explaining she couldn't bring the dead back to life. The black object then morphed into a demon with multiple arms and tentacle-like legs. It turned to Takumi and demanded to know about the magic stones he had collected. The knights were shocked to hear the demon speak in human language, recognizing it as one of the demon race, capable of understanding humans. The demon, flexing his arms and preparing to strike, introduced himself as Matora, deputy commander of the 6th Division of Death Bludgeon. Faced with an A-rank demon, the knights panicked, but Takumi remained composed, keenly assessing the demon's strength. Sensing Takumi's calmness, Matora launched a devastating JoJo punch towards his group, shaking the ground violently. Miraculously, Takumi's group survived, seemingly teleported to safety by the transition crystal. Matora, impressed, realized Takumi possessed the rare transition crystal. Just then, a barrage of fireballs struck Matora as reinforcements arrived. But the attacks barely fazed him. He retaliated with a brutal skill, Koketsu Black Blood, obliterating the knights in an instant, sending a chill through the adventurers, who believed Matora to be unbeatable, capable of wiping out even the strongest knights with a single blow. Suddenly, Takumi lunged forward, swinging his pipe wrench at Matora, dealing significant damage and warning the demon to focus on them, for they were his true opponents. He declared that Frau, the one-armed hero, would finish the battle with Matora. Matora, disdainful of Frau's youthful appearance, vowed to destroy the entire country after defeating Takumi's group. So Takumi instructed Frau to adjust her gun by pressing a button beneath the hammer, transforming the weapon. He explained that this type of gun had a wide blast radius and was ideal for surface attacks, rather than focusing on a single point. When Takumi asked if this setup worked for Frau, she expressed her trust in him, confident that whatever he created would give her an edge. As Matora prepared to strike, Frau charged the gun and fired Bakken Fujimura. The attack tore through half of Matora's body, then burned the rest, preventing regeneration. The demon was destroyed. Takumi concluded that demons posed no real threat, while the surrounding adventurers and knights watched in awe, as Frau effortlessly took down an A-rank demon with a single shot. For the first time in history, a B-rank adventurer had single-handedly defeated an A-rank demon. Meanwhile, on another battlefield, the Emperizer Imperial Heavy Unicorn Knights led the charge, with the fire magic team from the magical nation of Sophia providing support from behind. On the left wing, the Atelna squad of Elven Knights from White Wind's Kingdom launched an attack, while Team Big Fang from the Beast Kingdom of Fanga advanced from the right. Together, they began fighting the demons, but soon found themselves overwhelmed by the chaotic power of their enemies. Suddenly, 2 bright stars appeared in the sky, descending to the ground and slaughtering most of the demons. Reinforcements had arrived. Feverflash Heathland from Soluin, an Imperial Order General Leviathan Aklina, a female general of the Empire. The two bickered over who had slain more demons in the attack. It seemed that Feverflash had taken a liking to Leviathan. The knights cheered as the 2 heroes arrived, relieved to have them fighting alongside them. In the demon realm, a demon reporter informed one of the 6 demon generals, Lord Telzero, of Matora's defeat. Lord Telzero showed interest and asked for more details. In a land resembling Egypt, a demi-human teenager laughed at the rumor of a B-rank hero named Frau killing Matora, calling it absurd and asking his brother for his opinion. The older brother, revealed to be an S-rank adventurer, was Beast Prince Ilinus, alongside Solowan's youngest demi-human genius, Inoshis. However, Prince Ilinus believed the rumor might be true, having heard of a weapon capable of destroying a demon in a single blow. Back with Takumi, the king pondered their next move. Takumi explained their plan to reach the Demon King's base in Azuma. The king noted that the shortest journey from Roroso to Azuma took 6 months, though it could take longer due to harsh conditions and the limits of horse endurance. Realizing that horses weren't the best option, Takumi revealed a minivan he had invented, predicting it would reduce travel time to just 2 weeks. When the king asked about the vehicle's use, Takumi explained that magic stones could replace fuel, leaving the king astounded. The king offered his assistance whenever needed, and Takumi expressed his gratitude. Takumi started the engine and invited Eltiko and Frau to join him on the journey. He also presented Frau with a newly crafted prosthetic arm. The seamless integration and flawless operation left her in awe. Takumi explained that he had used a meridian stone to accelerate nerve transmission, giving her flawless control over her arms, and he felt a deep sense of pride in his creation. Takumi then decided to take a break and enjoy a cigarette, only to realize he had none left, but realized with a sigh that he was out of them. Disheartened, he reluctantly considered giving up the habit. With a sigh, Takumi stepped outside, chewing on a piece of leather to ease the frustration of being without a cigarette. Frau, impressed by how far they had come thanks to the truck, attempted to praise Takumi, but he remained lost in his gloomy thoughts. Upon noticing the petrol stone was running low, Takumi suggested they stop to gather more. Frau recommended visiting Bonus, the second largest city of Goldaro, an essential trading hub where magic stones from across the continent were traded. She added that the current Attorney General of Bonus, Lord Philosoph, had once been Soluan's greatest sage. Frau believed meeting Lord Philosoph could not only provide support for their journey, but also offer critical information about the Demon King. Takumi agreed and steered the truck toward Bonus, secretly hoping Lord Philosoph might have a cigarette to spare. Feeling reinvigorated, Takumi's attention was suddenly caught by a little girl lying by the roadside, appearing near death. Without hesitation, he stopped the car and rushed to check on her. And when she woke up, he calmly handed her a piece of bread from his space inventory. The girl quickly devoured the bread, and at Takumi's command, Frau healed her, restoring her health and energy. Takumi then used an angle grinder to cut the chains binding her, giving her another piece of bread and smiling warmly, which made the girl burst into tears. Frau surmised that the girl had traveled a long distance to reach this point. They noticed a mark on the girl's shoulder, signifying her status as a slave. Frau explained that in society's dark corners, children could be enslaved in many ways, through orphaning, kidnapping, forced marriage, or other harsh fates. These children were often subjected to grueling labor and treated like property. Beastmen, she added, often endured the most brutal treatment. Suddenly, a group of robbers on horseback appeared, claiming to have found their target, the little girl. The leader of the bandits held up a magic stone, explaining it allowed them to track her movements. He declared his intent to turn her into an eternal slave, a sentence that sent the girl into a panic, crying in despair. Takumi gently patted her head, assuring her there was no need to be afraid, and promised he would resolve the situation. Meanwhile, Frau secretly admired Takumi's resolve. Eltiko stepped forward, her eyes full of determination, ready to face the robbers. As she approached, the bandits, underestimating her, let their guard down. But Eltiko swiftly threw a powerful horizontal kick, sending the leader crashing to the ground. The two remaining robbers, shocked, tried to retaliate. However, Eltiko effortlessly blocked their sword strikes with her bracelet. They marveled at the bracelet's incredible durability. Takumi asked Eltiko how she felt about her new gear, and she responded positively. Takumi explained that despite Eltiko having little mana, the equipment he had designed could accumulate and focus weak mana signals, temporarily enhancing her physical strength. Even without the gear, Eltiko's natural strength was enough to be considered an A rank, and with the right equipment she could reach the level of an S rank hero. Meanwhile, one of the robbers tried to flee, but in his haste, he collided with a man named Vitorai. Recognizing Vitorai, the bandit taunted Takumi's group, revealing that Vitorai had once been a royal knight in service to the Emperizer. Vitorai quickly silenced the bandit. Frau, familiar with the concept of holy knights, was asked by Takumi for more information about him. She reveals that paladins, elite warriors from various nations, are trained from childhood in advanced combat techniques under harsh conditions. Even the least experienced among them can match B-rank adventurers, with their tactical knowledge proving crucial in the fight against demons. Frau, once a vice captain, speculates that Vitorai's true strength is hard to gauge. He might be much stronger than he appears. As Vitorai readied himself for the match, he decided his first target would be the healer, Frau. But just as he leapt toward her, a kick from behind struck him unexpectedly. Vitorai managed to block the kick and create some distance, impressing both Eltiko and Takumi with his defensive skills. Weighing the risks and rewards, Vitorai realized his best tactic was to retreat when at a disadvantage. The balance of his situation seemed to shift drastically in that moment. Opting for a cautious approach to gauge his opponent's strength, he used an A-rank analysis stone, an enchanted gem that reveals the target's power. Using the stone on Eltiko, Vitorai saw numerous swords appear before his eyes, signaling that her strength was nearly equal to that of an S-rank warrior. He turned to Frau, imagining a cannon 10 times his size, which made him realize he might have underestimated her. Takumi, curiosity piqued, was taken aback when Vitorai suddenly found himself bound by steel chains, dragged to the bottom of a dark, suffocating sea, where a monstrous demonic creature locked eyes with him. This vision shattered his analysis stone, pulling him back to reality as he collapsed to his knees, haunted by painful memories. He had once fled the front lines after analyzing the strength of a Demon King general, encountering a terrifying scene similar to the one he had just experienced while analyzing Takumi. Vitorai sighed, declaring he no longer wished to fight them. He admitted that facing El Tico alone was already a challenge, let alone the two other powerful opponents. However, Takumi was unconvinced, suggesting that Vitorai's original intent was to harm Frau. As Vitorai attempted to calm the situation, Takumi began swinging his pipe wrench menacingly. In desperation, Vitorai pleaded with Takumi, offering any information they needed, especially about the girl and the beastman. This caught Takumi's attention, reminding him of a fond memory involving a puppy. Takumi seemed willing to negotiate, but when he suspected Vitorai might be lying, he considered delivering a fatal blow. However, Frau and the girl intervened, stressing the importance of Vitorai's knowledge. Taking a deep breath, Takumi asked Vitorai to speak the truth. Vitorai revealed that El Tico was cursed by Amagu, a curse that consumes mana. Such curses are usually broken by killing the cursor or using a powerful dispelling spell. But Amagu's curse is different. It can only be lifted if the cursed object is destroyed. Even if the cursor dies, the curse persists. Vitorai explained that the person behind it might be a member of his Zafat organization, a notorious dark magician named Maledic. Frau recognized the name Zafat, headquartered in Bonus, and was impressed by Vitorai's willingness to divulge such sensitive information. Takumi immediately asked if Vitorai's organization would leave him in peace after this. Vitorai confessed that his loyalty to Zafat was nothing compared to his desire to survive. As Vitorai prepared to leave, Takumi stopped him, requesting that he guide them to Zafat's lair. Fearing the consequences of betrayal, Vitorai hesitated. Takumi turned back to El Tico and the girl, promising them he would soon break the curse. The girl jumped up joyfully, hugging him. Takumi then urged Vitorai to lead them without delay. Though trying to stay calm, Vitorai sensed the urgency, but Takumi shoved him into the truck to get him moving faster, and with no other choice, Vitorai joined them. They arrived in Bonus, a vibrant city bustling with people. The group checked into a cozy motel. Takumi was impressed by King Gandalf's generosity, as the king's sponsorship allowed them to stay comfortably. However, a gang of thieves noticed Takumi's large money bag and began plotting to steal it. Approaching with threats, they recognized Vitorai and wondered why he was with Takumi. Mistakenly assuming Takumi's group were Vitorai's new slaves, they laughed heartily. Takumi swung his pipe wrench at one of the thieves, knocking him out cold, and then taunted the others, advising them to find new jobs because their organization wouldn't be around much longer. In a flashback, Takumi sat in his workshop, watching the news on TV. A story aired about a little girl kidnapped 50 years ago. An elderly woman, the girl's mother, described her daughter as a kind child who cared for her family and other kids, the pride of her family. After the girl's disappearance, the old woman's husband's health declined severely, and he now struggled to walk. Choking up, the woman said she still remembered her daughter's voice and smiled clearly, even after all these years. Although the girl would be 56 now, she kept all her clothes, unable to let them go, deeply regretting she wasn't there that day. Hearing this, Takumi felt helpless anger toward the kidnapper. But as an aging craftsman, he knew he couldn't do much to help. The woman's tears on TV showed her yearning to see her daughter again, even though she was now over 80. Takumi tightened his grip on his wrench, wishing he had the strength to help. Back in the present, Takumi enjoyed a meal at a restaurant. Seeing him seemingly drunk, Vitorai planned an escape, intending to dismantle his organization before Takumi intervened. But Takumi left the restaurant early, tapping Vitorai on the shoulder, not to stop him, but to ask him to guide them back to the inn. Vitorai felt guilty about skipping out on the bill, but Takumi reassured him, offering a meal and tightening his grip on Vitorai's shoulder with a painful crack. As they left, Frau appeared, looking concerned for Takumi. Outside, Takumi instructed Vitorai to lead him to the organization's lair. Vitorai was stunned, realizing Takumi truly intended to go alone. Takumi explained he wanted to go alone for his team's safety. Realizing how dangerous this plan was, Vitorai attempted to flee, telling Takumi to go meet his end alone. Instantly, Takumi teleported in front of him, slamming his wrench into the ground. Startling Vitorai, Takumi then solemnly apologized and asked Vitorai to help him find the lair. Shocked, Vitorai wondered how Takumi could wield teleportation magic and possess such strength. Changing his tone, Takumi warned Vitorai he would crush him to atone for his sins if he refused. With no choice left, Vitorai reluctantly agreed and led Takumi to a cliff, where they saw a large fish-like creature, confirmation they had arrived. Vitorai explained the lair was hidden in the waterfall labyrinth, a dungeon in bonus. After touching a stone in the wall, a secret passage opened. He guided Takumi to a gate, but struggled to unlock it. Realizing the password had changed since his betrayal, thinking they were trapped, Vitorai felt defeated. Takumi examined the gate, estimating it to be about 100 mm thick. Takumi then pulled out a cutting torch from his storage space, intending to slice through the gate. He reassured Vitorai, promising to demonstrate some modern magic. With the torch ignited, Takumi began cutting through the gate, eventually creating a sizable hole. Vitorai was astounded, questioning Takumi's true identity. Takumi replied simply, "I'm just an old craftsman." Meanwhile, in the middle of the night, Frau woke up in her motel room, wondering why Takumi hadn't returned. She figured he might just be out enjoying himself, since he was an adult. She went to the window, only to see the little girl running out of the inn. Frau tried to stop her, and the girl explained she was searching for Takumi. Though finding him in such a big city seemed challenging, the girl confidently mentioned her enhanced sense of smell would guide them. Frau quickly realized the girl was a beast with an extraordinary sense of smell, hundreds of times sharper than a human's. Curious about Takumi's possible whereabouts, Frau decided to join her, warning her of the dangers of being out at night. Eltiko then appeared, eager to join as well. Deep within the dungeon, Takumi spotted a group of bandits, drinking and chatting leisurely. Vitorai warned him that the place was under constant guard by about 100 people. To avoid a direct confrontation, Takumi opted for a subtler route. Vitorai guided him to a passageway where they encountered a creature named Hamelshill. Before Vitorai could explain the monster's abilities, Takumi quickly defeated it with a swing of his wrench. Moving onward, they passed through a room filled with captives, mostly women and children. Disturbed by the sight, Takumi decided to free them. He pulled out a chainsaw and handed Vitorai a handsaw, asking for his help in freeing the captives. Meanwhile, Frau and her companions reached the dungeon's exterior wall, confused about how to enter. Frau speculated there must be a mechanism to open a door. Suddenly a voice spoke from above, startling them. The man asked what they were doing there at this hour. Frau replied calmly that they were searching for someone. Without hesitation, the man activated a device, revealing a hidden entrance in the wall, and led them into the dungeon. Takumi successfully freed all the women and children. Amusingly, they expressed their thanks to Vitorai, perhaps perceiving him as the hero. Vitorai then directed Takumi toward Maledict's quarters, ensuring the path ahead was straightforward. In gratitude, Takumi handed Vitorai a bag of money, surprising him with its generous contents. Takumi suggested that Vitorai use the money to start anew, urging him to lead the newly freed people out of the dungeon and abandon his criminal past. Vitorai expressed concern, doubting Takumi's chances against their leader. Takumi admitted he couldn't guarantee a win, but he'd rather face failure than live haunted by regret for running away. Moved by Takumi's resolve, Vitorai decided to give him a warning. He informed Takumi of an additional threat beyond Maledict, a beastman of immense power named Bistia. Bistia, he explained, was the one who had captured Frau's group and brought them to the dungeon. Known for his unmatched strength, Bistia single-handedly defeated a squad of knights sent to apprehend him, earning the title of an S-rank warrior.